Okay guys, we're starting a new tradition on the channel, and that is Old World Wednesdays. That means every single Wednesday I'm going to deliver to you a video based on the Old World. Why? Because I love it. I thoroughly love Old World. I don't want its popularity to wane. I want to show it as much support as possible, hopefully get more people involved, keep people excited about it, and make the game grow bigger and stronger every single week. With that in mind, and for no particular reason at all, I'm going to paint up Elector Count Marius Leitdorf. I have owned this model since the day it came out, which was 16 years ago, and I am finally ready to get it built and painted in today's video. And here is Elector Count Marius Leitdorf. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I purchased this miniature the day it came out, and I actually lost track of it for well over a decade until I was clearing out my parents' attic and I actually found it. And it was a very, very nice surprise when I did find it. I got very excited, and I've genuinely been looking forward to this project for quite a long time. Not really sure what I was going to do with him or which army specifically he was going to go into. Is he going to go into my Stirland army? Is he going to be a border prince from my Bretonnians? In the end, I decided he is going to stay as an Empire General and be part of my new Dogs of War army that I'm building. I say new Dogs of War, it's all built of very old miniatures. And if you guys have been following along with that series, the Dogs of War collection, you'll know that I have a very particular and distinct scheme set aside for them, which is my orange and black scheme. I've done a bunch of videos on it already, and every single model I've painted with this scheme I have adored. So I thought it was only right and proper to choose that scheme for this awesome model. It wasn't the easiest thing in the world to try and divide up the miniature between the orange and black. Obviously, it's kind of supposed to be equal parts, but with the distinct armor plates and the skirt on the horse, I did decide to lean a little bit heavier towards the orange side of things. If you're curious as to why I tilted more that way, simply put, orange is my favorite color, so if I'm going to put more of any color, it's going to be that one. I have talked about the concept of wanting to do basically Old World Wednesdays. Every single Wednesday, I want an Old World video to show up on the channel for you guys. And like I said at the beginning, it's because I'm such a colossal fan of that game system. It's definitely my favorite game currently, the one I enjoy playing the most, the one I enjoy building and painting armies for the most, and one that I really I love comments that say, or people that come into my Twitch stream and say, you know, I've been watching your videos, I'm now getting involved with Old World, I'm starting to build my first army. Those genuinely warm my heart and soul, and they make me very happy. So I want to continue helping people find the game, get involved with the game, and learn how to build and paint armies for the game. And hopefully, as a community, we can continue to grow bigger and stronger. And obviously that will, of course, get the notoriety of Games Workshop, who will continue to produce awesome kits for it and pump more resources into it if it's got a big enough following. So if I can play any small part in that, then that's what I'm going to do. I prepared this model over on my Twitch stream. If you didn't know, I stream on Twitch and YouTube every single Tuesday and Thursday between 8 and 10 p.m. Irish time. Everybody is welcome over. We talk a lot of nonsense. People make fun of me quite a lot. I do random hobby, whether it be Old World, 40k, Age of Sigmar, Kill Team, loads of different things. And all it is just a really cool, chill place for people to hang out and just do their hobby. So all it is like an accountability stream. So it implores people to show up for 4 hours total in a week and get some hobby done. Having set times, I feel really does help push people to make sure that they're there getting hobby done. It's an awesome little community growing around that now. And if you want to be a part of it, all you need to do is show up. Okay, with the orange and black blocked in, it was time for the gold. This was, of course, a trickier set because there is quite a lot of gold trim on it. Even the filigree design on the front panels of the horse are like quite big and quite spacious, so they're going to take up a lot of space, which is going to be a lot of gold. I might have done them in like scroll colors if I hadn't seen the original artwork for it. And everyone that I looked up online, obviously it's a beaten metal panel, so of course it has to kind of be metallic. But it was a lot of gold at the front, which I wasn't crazy about until the shade stage. That kind of helped cover it up for me and lean me a little bit more towards loving it. The back half of the horse, I feel, is a nicer kind of divide between the orange, the black, and the gold. It's a little bit too gold centric at the front, but what are you going to do? With all of the base coats then on the model, it was time to shade it down. And I just basically went for a Ryza Flesh shade over the entire piece. Every part of the model got a coat. This is going to sit really, really well on things like the gold and the orange. It's going to work well on his face, obviously. It's going to work well over the tan horse. It's not particularly amazing over the silver parts, but it doesn't make too much of a difference. It just weathers it a tiny bit. We're going to be layering it up and cleaning up those parts anyway. And it does help to act as almost like a varnish, a protective coat for all those contrast layers. Because this is a metal miniature, it's something we don't really deal with a lot anymore, worrying about models chipping constantly. And I find having one solid coat of shade across the entire thing really does seal it all in, protect those under layers. And then of course we can just layer up from there, make the model look nice and neat and tidy. This is of course the ugly stage of the model, getting all the base coats and the shade on. But when those bits are done and everything is dry, you really do get to move on to, in my personal opinion, the funnest part of painting a miniature, which is the layering stage, where you get to start adding all those extra colors and pulling all those colors up, making them pop, stand out, making them all look awesome. It truly is a really enjoyable stage, and I just love it. So I'm going to be leaning on the Too Thin Coats range of paints, Dark Reaper and Dungeon Stone Grey, to highlight the black areas. The reason I'm using Too Thin Coats is it's what I'm using for this entire range of Dogs of War. The orange and black specifically. I love the tones that I get from the Too Thin Coats range, so I'm going to continue doing that across the entire force. I say the same thing if anyone out there is interested in getting involved with Too Thin Coats paints, trying them out themselves. They break them down into beautiful triads. A triad is a set of 3 paints designed to do one thing. So for instance, if you want for instance, the orange triad that I'm going to be working on, they give you a base coat, a mid-tone, and a highlight. 3 paints. And if you want to try these out, I suggest you just buy one triad first and give it a go. It's only going to be 3 paints. It's going to be €7 or €8 to give it a try. If you don't like them, then you don't have to buy any more. If you do like them, then I'd suggest to continue buying them in triads as you go. As you can see, the model is incredibly detailed, so kind of fighting past all that detail to get to those orange and black areas and get them highlighted was quite a bit of work, but we did manage to make it work. It's a little bit easier on the orange sections because they're a little bit more exposed, but some of the black areas were definitely a little bit more difficult than I would have liked when it comes to highlighting. And here's that triad I talked about. So it starts with Rust Orange, works up to Fanatic Orange, and then finishes off with Orange Flare. And with those 3 paints, the orange is really going to stand out and look fantastic. As you can see, I'm going in with a fine pointed brush here. I'm really taking my time on highlighting those bits as neatly as possible. Obviously, we've already finished off the black, but we don't want to get it on the metallics or the face or horse or any of those other bits and pieces. Because like I said, the base coat washes on. Now we're going into the layering stage, which is applying not quite a solid coat of paint over the areas. So overspill can be a little bit annoying. So we want to be a little bit careful. So here I am going up to the mid-tone. You can see how the orange is already really starting to pop. The key is to apply less paint each and every time, leaving more of that darkened paint in the shadows and recesses of the previous steps. This model is, of course, quite a rare piece these days, and I don't believe it's something that's going to return to Games Workshop website, even in the made-to-order segments, because obviously this guy is Marius Leitdorf, Elector Count, and unfortunately he hasn't been born yet in the current lore. The new lore is set 200 or 300 years before the old world. or for Warhammer Fantasy. So like I said, this guy hasn't been born, so we probably won't see him return. So I'm super pleased to have him, and I think the only right place to put him will be in my Dogs of War. I think I'm going to continue calling him Marius Leitdorf even in the army because it suits him. It's imprinted boldly across his armor panels, and maybe he's just some sort of distant ancestor to the actual one. You can see how lightly I'm going with that final highlight of orange, really making those colors pop. You can see that the black and the orange are basically nearly finished across the model now. They're really vibrant, they're awesome. Now it's time to just add a couple details to the rest of the model to really make it stand out. So Morghast bone is what I'm going to add to the horse's skin. His horse was actually originally named, and it's named Buttercup, so I imagine kind of like a creamy kind of colored horse. So I think this is the right choice to go with the rest of the tones that I'm going to be painting across the model. Starting to come together now. From here, we're going to go into Ironbreaker, and we're going to use this to highlight all of the metallics, all the silver and all the gold on this model. If you're enjoying this video, make sure you could do me a favor, give the video a like, ask me any questions, or give me any suggestions you want for more old world content for next Wednesday. I'm more than happy to take suggestions, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Those three things cost you absolutely nothing, but they do make a huge difference on how many people see these videos. If you want to help support the channel even further, help us grow to bigger and bolder things, then of course there's links to things like channel membership and Patreon down below in the description. With those two things, you get access to a private Discord server, and you get access to an extra video every single week just for you guys. So if that sounds like something that excites or interests you, check it out, linked down below. Okay, with the final steps here, tidying up that sword, that a nice Ironbreaker coat down the blade, give it that shimmer and shine. We really are closing into the end of this miniature now. I didn't show each and every step. Things like the gemstones and stuff got painted on the model, and I very carefully went in with a bunch of different coats and ard coat and everything to make them pop. I painted his face, you know, highlighted and washed that in some nice rich reds, some nice pinky skin tones to make it stand out. And it just really did love the process. It is a thoroughly enjoyable thing for me to paint up one of these old models, especially one that I've had in my backlog or my collection for such a long time, and something that has definitely deserved a paint job for a long time. So I really can't wait to get this model on the tabletop and play some games with it as soon as possible. And with that, we have our finished Elector Count Marius Leitdorf painted up, ready to serve and perhaps lead my Dogs of War army. Marius Leitdorf, known most infamously as the Mad Count of Averland, was the late Elector Count of Averland, counted as one of the bravest, albeit most insane generals within the Empire's armed forces. Not many men can be said to have waged wars against forests, swarms of bees, and half-imagined fishmen, so it is not without good reason that Marius Leitdorf is known as the Mad Count. Most knew Marius for his eccentric and flamboyant nature, his bouts of screaming rage, his periods of melancholy, and his mercurial conduct at court. Indeed, for it is common knowledge that he relied on the advice of his warhorse, Daisy Kurt von Hellborg II, as much as any advisors. In fact, his outrageous behaviour and roguish improprieties with the daughters and wives of the noble houses were such that few other counts welcomed him in their courts. One of Leitdorf's harshest critics was Kurt Hellborg, who, according to the Mad Count himself, he thinks has a poor moustache, an even worse dental hygiene, and a horrible sense of humour to rival a troll. However, Leitdorf's reputation did him a gross disservice, for while he is clearly unconventional in his manners and flamboyant in his clothing, he has an incisive mind. Indeed, he was an accomplished poet and an inventor of some standing. Furthermore, Leitdorf was an exceptional swordsman and military tactician who led his armies at the front with considerable flair and skill. In fact, a number of great victories are owed to his insane courage and uncanny insights, and Karl Franz counted Leitdorf among his most trusted allies. So that's some of the more generic information about this amazing character. My favourite piece of information is that buried deep underneath the ground, underneath his keep, is a huge chunk of warpstone, and that's what corrupts his mind. That's what causes that eccentric nature, the bouts of anger, or the sullen stages of him. And while he is situated inside his castle, he does become that crazy character. But once he does venture forth to lead an army and venture out in crusade or fight enemy forces, after a couple of days of being free of that warpstone's corruptive nature, his true personality takes form and a strength of will exists. He becomes that brilliant tactician and that master swordsman. So all the while that horrible misinformation has been passed around him, he has been a great man, but unfortunately has been corrupted by that chunk of warpstone.